Nordstrom is here to help you dress in a way that feels totally you with the best spring styles. From boho dresses and matching sets to must-have bags and sneakers. Discover thousands of items from lots of your favorite brands like Mango, Reformation, Veronica Beard, and Farm Rio. It's easy too, with free shipping and returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today, in stores and at Nordstrom.com.
Hey, Mama, you don't have time to be messing around endlessly scrolling to find a caregiver for your child. Let me clue you into my trick to save time and my sanity when finding a sitter. SitterCity.com. SitterCity knows what they're doing. They've been helping busy parents find the perfect sitter for over 20 years. While other sites overwhelm you by throwing hundreds of random profiles your way, SitterCity matches you with caregivers who actually fit your needs. No endless scrolling, no guesswork. I love that all caregivers undergo ID verification. They have background checks, specialized qualifications, and real parent reviews to know if they showed up on time or really know how to handle my sassy toddler. And if I need help, I can talk to a real live human, not a robot, with SitterCity's delightful team. You know, my employer pays for me to get SitterCity completely free as part of my benefits. Yours could too. SitterCity is my go-to for a smarter, simpler way to find reliable, trustworthy care. Don't wait. Go to SitterCity.com/XX and get the help you need.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You have my sword.
And you have my bow.
And my trowel. Hi, you're listening to episode 41 of And My Trowel, where we look at the fantastic side of archaeology and the archaeological side of fantasy. I'm Ash.
And I'm Tilly.
And we have a bit of a different quest today. Tilly, we're off to dig.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why? Is that going to be an issue?
Well, I'm just more of a, lab-based indoor archaeologist.
No. You're not getting out of another excavation, Tilly. Come on, grab your kit. We've got an excavation to run. Besides, I think you're going to like this one.
I somehow doubt that.
Okay, what if I told you that we're excavating one of the most important sites in all of Middle-earth?
Ooh.
One that sits on a singular hill rising out from the plains of the Blue Mountains, where once great watchtowers.
By the beard of Elrond! Do you mean Weathertop?
I do, yes!
Oh my god, that is quite exciting. All right,
exactly,
fair. I'll come along. I'll just test it out, see how it goes. I don't mind doing the occasional excavation, actually. So, this can be
your foray into excavation.
My annual excavation experience.
The Númenórean Revitalization Council has tasked us with excavating the site of Weathertop, also known as Amon Sûl, this watchtower that was originally built by the Númenóreans, and then it was one of the chief towers of the kingdom of Arnor. So, they want us to learn more about the archaeological significance of the tower and if there is any information we can glean from the now ruin. So, come on, Tilly, let's get going. We've got a long way to go to get to Weathertop.
Wait, hang on. Not so fast. Maybe this is a good opportunity.
Oh, I think I see where you're going with this.
Great minds. So, should we do it?
Absolutely. Okay, listeners, you're in for a treat. So over the next 2 episodes, we're going to be outlining how we, as fantastical archaeologists...
Fantastic archaeologists.
will be outlining the archaeological process of excavating Weathertop.
And, Ash, don't forget the post-excavation processes too.
Oh, how could I forget?
Mm-hmm. So we're going to be taking you from research into excavation, from excavation into analysis, and maybe even further. So where do you think we should start, Ash?
Well, I think we need a written scheme of investigation, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you have more experience with excavation than me, but maybe I'd say, I guess let's look at Weathertop as like a whole site. So its location, the potential for archaeological remains, and then we need to create some sort of plan or methodology for the excavation. So yeah, I guess firstly, what's like the landscape of Weathertop? Have you looked into this already? Are there any sort of areas of significance we can look at? Where are my papers? Let me find my papers on Weathertop.
Well, I think we know that Weathertop was a watchtower, right? So it's on a hill, like a hill fort almost, a small hill fort. So it'll be tall. There's a conical shaped hill.
And it's in the middle of plains, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's in the middle of the Blue Mountains, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's easily spotted from distance. It's a place of power in the landscape. People can see it from all over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's located in Eriador.
I'm not from that region, so I can't pronounce the local dialect as well.
I think you're doing a really good job.
Thank you.
And it's got a flat area, so it must have been excavated quite early on, even maybe before the Númenors. Or the Númenóreans.
The Númenóreans. Yeah, because they built the first, because of course, one of the first things of archaeological excavation is to look and see if we have any historic records. So yeah, the historic records, they'd say that the Númenóreans built a tower, but we don't know if anything happened before then, right?
Yeah, so we know that that's the first kind of, well, Christopher Tolkien talks about this in one of the History of Middle-earth, Volume 10.
Oh, right. Yes.
And it's about the people of Middle-earth. So if we look at the kind of records, we see that Weathertop is built by the Númenóreans and it's a watchtower for the Kingdom of Arnor. And that's part of their defensive system in the north. So that kind of means it's a key strategic point.
Right.
Where you can, look out for enemies and things like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of things happen to the site. So it's been there for, millennia? Actually.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I was about to say, actually, that's a really long,
It's a long time. Like, if you're thinking,
occupation
if we
period.
think of, European archaeology standards, that's Neolithic. Do you know?
Yeah. Maybe the first agriculture was. I think we need to make a timeline, a Middle-earth timeline, because they wouldn't have had the same timeline that we would have had in our world potentially from hunter-gatherer, forager.
No, because they but it's before our timeline, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the idea. But it's almost medieval-esque, kind of saga-y, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you look at it, I mean, even if you're looking at the kind of adaptations, Lord of the Rings adaptations, not even from the books themselves.
Yeah.
They're all very medieval. Even the new kind of Rings of Power ones, they look more Bronze Age, actually, I think. Some of the kind of dress and things that they have.
Yeah. But indeed, it always starts from then. It starts from there's big settlements, there's complex society, and that's the beginning. There's no kind of evolution of society in the way that we have on our world.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of empires that fall, though, as well.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the same replication, because the Númenóreans, they disappear, or they kind of get split. So you get the Weathertops, split between the smaller kingdoms.
Yeah.
And then there's three, I can't remember the three kingdoms.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's completely destroyed and lost its importance, which you see a lot in our own kind of history and archaeology. These sites lose importance, then people come back to them, and then they lose importance again, or people lose the reason why the site is there.
Yeah, it just becomes an important site because it's an important site, but the actual meaning behind it is lost. I mean, things like Stonehenge, I guess.
Yeah, that's immediately what I was thinking of. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Or the Mayan pyramids, or, any of this kind of thing, which is sort of, they had potentially, well, I guess those are different because they're from later periods and we know a little bit more about what happened with them because we had the contact with the Spanish colonizers coming in. Yeah. But yeah, it's that kind of, they're having a monument for monument's sake, which I guess is what Weathertop has become now. It's Weathertop.
And then what people associate with that monument too. So if you're looking at stuff if we're thinking of the larger monuments in the Neolithic, for example, and then you're getting people in the Bronze Age, which are millennia later, coming back and reusing these sites. They know there's an importance and there's a significance to that site, but they don't know what it originally was for.
Yeah.
So you get stuff if you look at, I was thinking Callanish stones in Lewis.
Uh-huh.
So originally it is just standing stones. Okay, there's lots of different ones. There's about 8 of them. But the main one is now a cruciform. So it's shaped like a cross. And in the center, there's a kist. The kist is not Neolithic. It's Bronze Age, I believe. So actually people are being buried there, which originally they wouldn't have been buried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you get like burial mounds where people are buried around the side and like cremations are buried around the side. So they don't know what they're for, but they're like, that's important. And I should probably do something about that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess people would have known. I found the smaller kingdoms, by the way, in our notes about when Arnor split into smaller kingdoms, Arthedain, Cardoland, and Rudwar. Again, apologies to anyone coming from those cultures for my mispronunciation. But yeah, so I guess people would have known of those kingdoms and would have known of that heritage kind of passed down through oral traditions and everything. So they would have known that kind of, because Arnor was the first kingdom and then that split into those 3 smaller kingdoms. But then that was Weathertop became then an area of like battle almost between those 3 smaller kingdoms. But then eventually it just kind of lost its importance and was left to decay after it was destroyed. But yeah.
And the fact that it was even destroyed shows you that it was a place of importance and had a lot of power. Yeah. Because if you're destroying, what you're going to do if you're trying to take over somewhere, you're going to destroy all their landmarks.
Yep. Which we see a lot of in our world as well.
In our world, yeah, unfortunately.
But yeah. And it's interesting. I'm just thinking, sorry, I'm going back a bit to when we were just talking about the whole fact that Middle-earth kind of archaeology, yes, you have the barrows, right? Those are more sort of the classic kind of Bronze Age style things. But I'm just trying to think of basically hunter-gatherer society, evidence of hunter-gatherer society in what we know of Middle-earth. And I can't really, the Rangers don't count because they're hunters and gatherers, but they are from a cultural background that is the Númenórs, which are like the ultimate empire. So that's like not really hunter-gatherers.
Is Gollum a hunter-gatherer?
Maybe Gollum. Maybe like hobbits would be more. Yeah. And that's what interesting actually in the new adaptation of the Ring of Power one is that the hobbits are like, they don't have set settlement yet as to where I am at. I haven't watched that far. So
yes, they do. They seem to walk around the landscape.
They are nomadic.
The nomadic
group, which is what early human society would have been. It would have been nomadic predominantly. There might have been like seasonal settlements at different places, but
and they do have that as well in the new adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. So I that's an interesting sort of depiction of it. And I think that's really interesting because that's potentially one of the issues with these kind of fantasy universes, these big fantasy universes, is that they show the sort of evolution of society, but it always still, the earliest evidence that you have is still, like you said, big empires or big, very complex civilizations. And you can see then where people in our world might start to believe more in those pseudo-archaeological, ideas of like, oh, but there was a great race before this and they taught us everything and because in fiction, that's not shown as much in these sort of fictional fantasies.
Yeah, and a lot of, if you're looking at Lord of the Rings, stuff starts with gods, essentially.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's where it starts with. And also, like, to your point about saying, there's not evidence of, like, prehistoric characters or civilizations in Lord of the Rings or many fantasies, I'd say. It's because I think you're dealing with written history.
Yeah.
So
true.
That's what, so you're dealing with, you're not dealing with oral history, apart from the songs and stuff in Lord of the Rings. But
which I'll carry through. But
it's a very like set time period, isn't it? And then Tolkien's also like, well, I don't know either.
Of course. Why would he? He's just saying what he gets from the history books of this fantasy world. So of course,
Exactly. So he doesn't know either. So there's much to interpret and change. I mean, I know a lot of people will not like the fact that people would change Lord of the Rings or the area or Middle Earth.
I wouldn't say change. I would say explore deeper.
Explore. Yeah, exactly.
Someone needs to write a prehistory of Middle Earth, basically. Is what
I was actually thinking someone needs to do, like, in the UK we have a thing called Canmore and we have pass maps, and basically we can find and register lots of different archaeological sites, right? Yeah. And so you can just like go into the map and see if you live somewhere what's right next to you, essentially.
Yeah.
I think they need that for Middle Earth.
Yeah.
I was looking at the maps when we were talking about doing this episode, and I was like, it would be so handy to see, like, oh, look, a flint axe was found here.
Yeah.
Like next to, the Weather Hills or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, on Weathertop, on Weathertop as well, if it was a defensive area, probably there was some sort of encampment around it as well. And there's so many different things we could do with maps. Which, do you have any maps of?
I do. I have a few maps. So I don't know what this map is called. I'll try and share it if we can. But it's a fan art map. So I'll have to find the credit and then I'll put it in the show notes if you want to have a little look. Yeah. But essentially, Weathertop's right on the edge of the Weather Hills. It's not fully in the Blue Mountains, but it's next to them. And then there's a great road that runs alongside it. So it runs alongside the tower and Amon Sûl, which was what the tower was called at the time. It is also right next to the mid-water marshes, which is interesting because I think it does relate to the kind of Tolkien was inspired by the Welsh marches and stuff like that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, for the idea. And then you've got the Forsaken Inn as well on the Great Road.
Great name.
Yeah.
I'd probably go for a bit of a rebranding if he wants to get the hell back, but okay.
And it's about 70 miles from Bree as well, which I didn't realize at all.
Yeah, it's a decent track, but it's kind of on the route. So I guess that's the way if you've come from Bree and you're going somewhere else and you need to take cover somewhere, that's a sort of good place, which again shows the change of use, right? Of how it's been perceived that you were talking about before. Yeah,
exactly. And there is a road that goes through the Weather Hills as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there's that kind of merchant. I was imagining it like a merchant road, getting through and stuff like that. So it's very interesting, the whole map. You could just go so deep into it, I think.
Yeah.
But the appearances I was thinking of in Lord of the Rings of Weathertop, obviously we know in Fellowship of the Ring, Frodo and his travelling gang of hobbits are travelling to Rivendell, and then they're chased by the Ringwraiths and they end up at Weathertop with Strider at that point. Frodo gets stabbed there as well by the Morgul blade from the Witch King, and it nearly kills him. And then Aragorn or Strider, who depends on if
again, is it Amon Sûl or Weathertop? Is it Aragorn or Strider? I mean,
I think if you're like I remember I had a conversation with someone once, and I was like, when you see Strider in the pub, and he's like, I can tell you're a fan of Lord of the Rings because you called him Strider at that point instead of Aragorn. I was like,
Have you seen? This is a real sidetrack. Have you seen what's it called, 17 again or something? I think.
Oh yeah, is that
from? And Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
And then there's that point where his friend who's the ultimate geek is trying to go out with the headmistress, and spoiler alert, they're out for dinner at some point and he suddenly breaks down and he's like, okay, you're right, I'm a complete nerd. I'm the kind of guy who would spend $4,000 on the staff of Gandalf the Grey from the Two Towers, so and then she goes, I guess that does make you a big nerd, because in the Two Towers he is no longer Gandalf the Grey, he comes back as Gandalf the White, and then it's all this background music and they start speaking Elvish to each other and it's hilarious.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh my God, that's an old film. That's got to be at least 15.
Right? I can't. No, don't be ridiculous.
No, it's got to be 20 years old.
It
has to be. Hang on.
And we'll be right back, everyone. We need to go and check this quickly.
So good, so good, so good.
Easter deals starting at just $25 are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means tons of fresh reasons to rack.
They've got the best gifts.
Because I always find something amazing.
Save on Easter finds from Kate Spade, New York, Calvin Klein, MAC Cosmetics, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Tired of scrolling through endless sitter profiles on other sites only to get ghosted? For over 20 years, Sitter City has been the go-to resource for parents who want a more personalized, reliable way to find trustworthy sitters and nannies. While other sites flood you with options, Sitter City focuses on bringing you high-quality matches that are the right fit for your family every time. With SitterCity.com, you can find full-time, part-time, or occasional care that meets your specific needs. Every caregiver is ID verified, and profiles include real parent reviews, background checks, and specialized experience, so you can spend less time searching and more time doing what matters most, spending time with your family. And did you know that many employers include Sitter City as part of their benefits package? In a few clicks, find out if you can get Sitter City free. Getting started has never been easier. Take the guesswork out of finding care so you can breathe easier knowing your kids are in good hands. Visit SitterCity.com today to get the care you need. This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Welcome back, everyone. So indeed, we went and checked. We had a brief moment of break from our historical research into the background of Weathertop to look into how long ago 17 again was filmed. And indeed, it was 16 years ago, which is
16 years.
I feel like next year, because it will be 17 years ago, we should watch it and have
we'll do a live watch party on the Discord.
Theme to it. So we delved into a little bit into sort of the known history of Weathertop, how the perception it is of, has changed over time. So we have like a good, I would say, theoretical, a good contextual background to start the excavation. But we're going to go and we're going to do some things now. So you have more experience working excavation. I do work for an excavation company at the moment, but I have to admit I am purely post-excavation mainly because I have a lot of issues with my knees, which I feel is something that a lot of archaeologists
have. We all have issues with our knees.
Basically, the most recent one, as I sit here, I still can't walk properly because 3 months ago I dislocated it and it's still not completely good. So basically I said to my boss, look, I don't think I can do outside excavation anymore because just standing up weirdly makes my knee dislocate, which is not great. I need to do my physio exercises more. Anyone listening in, if you've been told more physio to do exercises, do the exercises.
Do your physio, get a mat. Don't just lie.
You'll just be standing up from putting your daughter to bed and your knee will just dislocate.
And you'll be hobbling around like Tilly for the rest of your life.
Not the rest of my life.
Sorry, Tilly.
It's going to get better. But anyway, point being, yes, I am mainly now post-excavation focused. I usually have been, in all my training is mainly in post-excavation anyway. But you enjoy digging, right, Ash?
I do, yeah. I worked for a different commercial company, different archaeological units in the UK for about 4 years, and I was a site supervisor as well, so I ran my own digs and things like that, and I really did enjoy it. It was just, it's back-breaking work.
Yeah, I mean, it's physical labor, right? You're literally digging and moving massive amounts of material.
Yeah, definitely. But it teaches you a lot. I think when you're, you can only learn so much. I think in the university setting without doing field work.
Yeah.
When you're there on the ground and you're looking at it, you just get your eye in and you immediately can spot features. So it's really quite a fun thing to do for a while. It will break you though.
Well, and I will say, even though now I focus on post-excavation, I have been on a couple of the excavations for my current company so that I know the process and so that I know, okay, when these finds are coming to me, what have they been through? What is this information that is written on the little sheet that is with them?
Absolutely.
And all this kinds of things. I think it is important if you work in especially commercial excavation, but even research and all of that kind of thing, to be aware of all of the different steps and to have actually experienced it, because also works vice versa, by the way, because quite a few of the mainly field archaeologists who have then worked with me on post-ex are like, oh, I'm going to now make sure that I always do this when I'm in the field because otherwise it's really annoying at this point. I'm like, yes, it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember the one, it's such a silly thing to learn, but I remember doing my context sheets and people couldn't understand my handwriting, and I've always had an issue with that. I'm very squirrely cursive handwriting.
Right. Yes. The Elven script is...
Yes, definitely. I was taught by a very old, I feel like Victorian teacher when I was very young, but basically everyone was like, oh, if you could just use capital letters, if you write in caps, it's so much easier for people to understand your context sheets and your different diaries and things like that you have to keep. So small tips like that, I think, they're a huge thing. Well, especially like double bagging sample cards, like small things that allow the process. Like it takes up time if you have to go and find, all the information that they've put on the desk-based assessment or, the DSR and like lots of different stuff. So yeah, it takes for a while. But anyway, the types of archaeological works I think we should look at.
Yeah. So what could we do? What are the possibilities based on what we know of the site?
There's a lot of different possibilities. I mean, initially, it depends on what you find, but considering we've looked at, the landscape, we see that there is lots of activity going on. That means that we'll probably do an archaeological evaluation. So that can be trial trenching, that can be surveying, that could be even excavating as well.
But so trial trenching is more just like doing a random trench, like digging a random hole basically, or doing
So you can do different types of trial trenching. Usually if you're doing an evaluation, that is large trenches. It depends on the size of the site, and because there's ruins on Weathertop, you probably wouldn't have to do as much, but you could probably put some trial trenching around the ruins to see how far they go and see what's underneath them too, because if you might have early settlement activity or anything like that, then you'll find it underneath. So what I would do is I'd look at the maps, look at the ruins, look at the site itself and the proportions and boundaries that we've got, and then you'd choose the length of your trial. So you can do test pitting, which is quite good if you're looking for something kind of like ephemeral, like a battlefield. So we do know that there has been activity that, has like fire and burning.
Yes, true. Yeah, it's been burnt down. So.
Yeah, it's been burnt down and there has been battles there. So that might be quite good.
And what's the difference between test pit and trial trench?
So a test pit is usually a 1 meter by 1 meter. I don't know what that is in American. I'm terribly sorry.
1 meter by 1 meter. Sorry, no, that was a terrible
inches,
joke.
I'm not too sure.
I apologize to all our American listeners.
Truly
really bad. Very bad. Sorry.
So like if we were doing metal detecting, that would be quite good too, because you could do your metal detecting, then you could do your trial trenching for your test pits. And so you just bring it down to natural. Anytime you're opening up a trench, you're always looking for natural. And natural is basically the subsoil that has never been
like the original ground, right?
Yeah, the original ground.
I remember this from one of my very few excavations. But the nice thing is, I've done very few excavations in general, but they've always been in very cool places. So when I was in the Arctic excavating,
here we go.
Their natural was 60 centimeters below the surface.
Yeah,
because it was such shallow sites. So you'd basically hit like the sandy seabed 60 centimeters below if you didn't hit permafrost, which is a whole
yes I was going to say permafrost.
But yeah, okay so
yeah, it depends on the site. I think because Weathertop's probably quite rocky, I think you would do targeted trial trenching. So you do stuff like at the edges of your boundary, you'd maybe put one in the center of the tower. Okay. So the ruins of the tower, and you could maybe do a cross section all the way along. Okay. And then you'd get the different occupational layers and whatever's going on until you hit probably bedrock.
Yeah. Because I guess you want to keep the original, like the ruins that are there at the moment, you'd have to keep them in place because it's I believe it might be a historic site of some
like you wouldn't be getting rid of those. You'd be doing it all by hand as well. You wouldn't have any diggers, I think.
We wouldn't have the big ents coming in and...
No, you could get an end. Oh, that'd be so handy. Oh my God.
Just if you had an end... move this stone aside and put it back.
That'd be so handy because then you could... imagine all the soil they would take away from you, the wheelbarrows.
Do you think the ents or do you think like trolls?
I feel like ents are much easier to work with than trolls.
I feel like trolls would, start getting a little bit
and also
happy.
They can't really work in the day.
True,
trolls,
yes. So it would have to be nighttime and then that's annoying
and then you need floodlights and that would be a nightmare. And I know people that have just missed burials during that time. So no, we're not doing that. So we're doing it in the daylight hours.
Okay, that's a good rule to have from the start, during the day.
But we wouldn't have any machinery, so we'd basically start by taking off the topsoil and top layer. So that's your grass and then the topsoil, and then you'd get to probably your occupation layers. Yeah. You do a long
Trial trench.
Thank you. Trial trench.
I just learned what this is. Well, no, not just. I technically didn't know what it is.
If there was anyone digging or anything like that, let's say because we know for a fact that there's no excavation going on for like a commercial property or anything.
True, it's not like someone's building a tower block next door.
Yeah, they're not going to change it into, I don't know, the super mall of Middle Earth or anything like that. No, so we don't really need a watch and brief. Yeah. We don't need to monitor any groundworks that are going on. Yeah. So really, this is just kind of a research excavation. To learn more about the Númenórean occupation in that time. Yeah. So you would dig down until you reach, your bedrock, and then you'd record absolutely everything. I actually think as well, it might be handy to have a historic building recording before we do this too.
True.
Of the remains of the tower.
And so that's actually what we did when we did a historic building analysis of the survey of the Prancing Pony back in episode 19. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, check out episode 19.
So I think what we could do if we had the funds, which we do, because the Númenórean society is very rich, I think we could also do some non-intrusive surveys. So we could do a ground survey first of all. So we'll just do a walkover, see what's there, mark some locations that we think might be of interest.
Because this is also my problem, and the reason that I'm not a field archaeologist. I'm very bad at doing that whole thing where you recognize, like, I've worked with some archaeologists who are so good, they'll walk in a field and they'll be like, oh yeah, you can tell under here there's a bunch of stones, and you can tell under here there's like clay, and you can tell because like of the different grass that grows there. Everyone knows this stuff, and I'm like, it's just, I mean, yes, it's a slightly different color. Yeah, I can tell it's different, but like also the different color, different soil types, different colors and all that kind of thing. I'm just really, maybe I am okay at it, but I think I just think too much about it, and I worry that I'm getting it wrong, like with all the different layers, soil layers and everything as well. So that's also why I'm not a great field archaeologist.
But you would be better if you did more field work.
Probably, but
you would, because it's a learned thing. It really is. Like, I was rubbish. I remember when I first turned up, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, someone just handed me a trowel and that was it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. What is this? But you do really get your eye in. You start to see, especially if you've got negative features. If you're doing like a walkover survey as well, you do recognize the bracken that, like, there's certain bracken in Scotland that will only grow on rocks. And so if you see bracken and it looks quite uniform, you're like, right, there's a house under there. There's a suture in there.
There's a square of bracken. There. You're like, I think there's something under here.
Yeah. And there's also like stuff where you can see where cattle have been as well. So there's a red type of moss that grows where cows have been.
That's so cool.
Cow poo especially. So we know that in this area, especially if it's in like a little circle, you know that there's been a little felling or something there that is gone. Like maybe the rocks have been robbed or whatever. And then there's been cows sitting in there. So we got a lot of that on St Kilda as well, which is a island off the coast of Scotland. And you could see where things had people and animals
without even digging. So
exactly. So this is the point where you could do some more surveying. So you could actually do it because we've got ruins. We'll probably have negative features. We could do some geophysical surveys.
And negative features means like things are missing, right?
So if you're taking off the topsoil, you might see a smudge. And you go, oh, what's that? I don't know. And maybe it's in a little circle. And you go, oh my God, it's a pit. And it'll have a different color to the natural. So you'll see it differently because maybe there's some organic stuff in there. So there'll be a darker soil morphology going on there. You might have some inclusions like charcoal or bone, especially I really like when you see cremations, you do find little flecks of bone, particularly knuckles as well. Some fun stuff. I remember one burial, a cremation that what was it? It was on a site in Scotland near a river, I won't say where, but one of the girls was an osteologist and she was like, there's too many knuckles in this. And we were like, oh. She was like, so I think we've got a few people here. I'm like, oh, cool. And they were all just like buried all together, all their little remains. So we don't know why, but there was too many knuckles. Yeah. So there's lots of stuff like that you can find out. But I think, we'll do a walkover survey. Might as well drag this out. You know, this is the amazing site. We're never going to get this up again.
It'll be quite cool.
We'll do walkover survey. We'll do geophys. We'll do historic building recording. Then I think we'll do some trial trenching and see what's there. And if we find anything in the trial trenching, such as artifacts, features, anything that's maybe more occupational layers from previous people instead of the Númenóreans, then we'll open it up a little bit more for an excavation. So we'll probably go, a meter or so. It's a very small site, so we couldn't, excavate the whole thing. Well, we could actually if we got the permission and we had the time. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, depending on how the surveys and everything go, maybe we will have the time. We'll be able to do some more.
Because that would be cool. Because then if you imagine if we found like a flooring. Oh my God, that would be so good. So you might find organic stuff here too, because there's been burning going on.
True.
Yeah. You might find there was a site that I was on and we found it was a roundhouse site. So there was a Bronze Age roundhouse site. And we found this little bundle of grain just sitting like in a kind of very charcoal dense area of it was basically a settlement occupation layer, and we were like, why is it just saying like that? And then we're like, oh, because it was in a little bundle and the bundle's gone because the soil's so acidic, and so we have just this little pocket of grain just saying there. It was really sweet.
So cool.
Yeah, so somebody at one point in time had a little bundle of grain, and then there was a fire, and the grain survived, but the bag didn't.
But the bundle didn't.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that could be that. We might have a lot of stuff from, the kind of
the
the destroying of it in the Third Age. So
but there might have been a lot of stuff left there, and there might be things.
So that means we'll need sampling as well. So we'll have to do a sample strategy, and maybe take all of it. Personally, I'd take all.
Okay. Then it seems like we really need everything. Like we need trowels, we need the fines processing bags and boxes and things like that. I guess we need like some sort of team. A good team. Okay. Then you know what? After having talked about this and doing all the prep, I'm actually quite excited about this now. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good.
We'll get you in the field.
Yeah. Okay. Then we better go and start prepping, but don't worry, next episode we're going to be back for part 2, which will be my favorite part, the post-excavation. And we'll tell you all about how the excavation went as well. So we hope that you enjoyed this little quest into our kind of excavation experience, or lack thereof in my case. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen to us. It really helps to support us and the rest of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Also, did you know that we have merch too? Check out our shop at arcpodnet.com/shop over at Dashery. You can find the link in the show notes, where you too can join the Fellowship of the Trowel with a wide range of accessories such as t-shirts and jumpers and hats and phone cases and all kinds of things with our fun little logo on. If you have any ideas for future episodes, or maybe you want to discuss a past episode more, you can contact us through social media or join the free APN Discord server. We'd love to hear all of your feedback. All contact information for us, as well as further reading and links to the points discussed today, can be found in the show notes.
The Archaeology Podcast Network is 10 years old this year. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy, our social media coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht, and our chief editor is Rachel Roden. The Archaeology Podcast Network was co-founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in 2014 and is part of Culturo Media and DigTech LLC.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.arcpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Tired of scrolling through endless sitter profiles on other sites only to get ghosted? For over 20 years, Sitter City has been the go-to resource for parents who want a more personalized, reliable way to find trustworthy sitters and nannies. While other sites flood you with options, Sitter City focuses on bringing you high-quality matches that are the right fit for your family every time. With SitterCity.com, you can find full-time, part-time, or occasional care that meets your specific needs. Every caregiver is ID verified, and profiles include real parent reviews, background checks, and specialized experience, so you can spend less time searching and more time doing what matters most, spending time with your family. And did you know that many employers include Sitter City as part of their benefits package? In a few clicks, find out if you can get Sitter City free. Getting started has never been easier. Take the guesswork out of finding care so you can breathe easier knowing your kids are in good hands. Visit SitterCity.com today to get the care you need.